Greetings, you beautiful people. How are you doing today? Welcome to another video by yours truly, Val. And as many of you may know, I like to make a daily video talking a little bit about my life, the challenges that I've been through, and the things that I do on a daily sort of basis to keep myself, sane and functional, and the sort of perceptual shifts, the way of seeing the world that have just helped me in my daily existence. I've used a lot of these tools and ways of thinking in order to completely change my life from an life of addiction and alcoholism and just depression and anxiety into the person that I am now, who's not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but I'm definitely not as depressed and anxious as I used to be. I'm actually a functional member of society nowadays, taking myself from not being able to get out of bed in the morning to being able to get myself out of bed on a pretty consistent basis. So guys, without further ado, today I really wanted to talk to you about what we can control versus the things that we can't control. Now, we've been gifted with these amazing devices, one of which I'm filming on right now. And they're such useful devices. There's information that you can obtain on them is insane. I can film videos on them. I can take pictures of them. I can communicate with people on the other side of the world with them. But also, what these things do is they're very good at taking attention away from ourselves and putting it on all of the things that are happening outside. Now, we do not have any influence over other people's actions. Like if you're going through Instagram and all this kind of thing, we have no influence on what somebody is doing with their lives. When we look at the news, we're pelted with all of this information about Trump this, Trump that. Look at what America's government's doing. Look at what the war in the Middle East is causing and the chaos and the damage. And Iran, look at how their government is completely screwing over the people. And right, all this negative sort of information, and sometimes not even negative information, sometimes it's just information. But what we're getting is we're getting so much of this information thrown at us, and we're problem solvers by nature, human beings, and I think animals just really are programmed to survive, right? That survival instinct is so ingrained within us, and this sort of negative information, news media and all that, takes advantage of the fact that as animals we're wired for the survival. So we're skewed to looking at reality through a slightly negative lens, because back in the day when we were hunter-gatherers and all that, we were literally having to look for the danger constantly. Warring tribes invading us, like some rival tribe invading us, to starvation. We need enough food so that we can survive. Oh my god, an animal's about to attack me. Saber-toothed tigers. So we're skewed to looking at reality through this negative lens, and the media out there takes advantage of this, and it takes our attention away from the things that we can control to the things that we can't control. And we cannot control what governments across the world do. We cannot control what the billionaires have decided to do, these Jeffrey Epsteins and all this kind of thing. As it stands, I don't have the power to influence any of those events. Hopefully, no, I will. Not even hopefully, I will have the power to influence those events, for sure. That's how I feel in my heart. And so what can happen with this is you start to take your attention off of yourself and your immediate surroundings, and you get involved in other people's lives and what governments are doing to their people, what billionaires are involved in. And this stops you from progressing. This stops you from developing in your own competency in your own life. And this is dangerous. Okay, because you will miss opportunities if this is what's going on. You start to fixate on all the problems instead of all of the solutions. You see all of the problems in the world, but you're not dealing with your own problems. And it's very alluring to be dealing with other people's problems and thinking about other people's problems and thinking about things you can't control instead of thinking of the things you can control. Because what happens now, when you actually start focusing on the things that you can control, you realize that you actually have the power in your hands to change things. But it's very easy to be blaming other people for your downfall, for your lack of success, for your inability to get anywhere, for you feeling like you're stuck in your life, So instead, imagine, you watch this whole video on the problems of, the Middle East. You spent an hour watching all the problems in the Middle East unfold in this maybe YouTube documentary or news or whatever you're choosing to watch. In that hour, you could have taken that hour to actually make content, okay, like I'm doing currently. I'm not saying I'm perfect, guys. I also still watch stuff that can be negative or even watch too much stuff, period. But you could have taken that hour and you could have done something productive with it. You could have learned how to play guitar. You could make a piece of content. You could draw. You could start an online business. That 1 hour that you spent consuming negative content and believing that you have no control over your life can now be used to take control of your life. Okay. And it's hard for some people to accept. I know for many, many years, I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to take responsibility for where I was in life because I would rather blame the drugs, the alcohol, the governments for not having enough money, and my parents for not raising me the way that I wanted, and all this kind of stuff. I could have done that, and I was doing it for a very long time. And you can do that as well. But you can also choose to take responsibility for yourself and be like, okay, cool. No matter where I am right now, let me take a step forward today to change my life. Okay, let me do the thing that I need to do. I don't have enough money. Cool. What can I sell? Instead of being like, oh, I don't have enough money. It's the government's fault that I don't have enough money. Or it's my parents because they didn't give me their inheritance. Or they didn't raise me to make money. You need to start being able to teach yourself. I did the very thing. I had to start learning for myself how to take care of myself. I couldn't be blaming everybody for the situation that I put myself in. I couldn't be blaming my parents for my alcoholism and my drug addiction anymore. I had to take that responsibility. I had to take the bull by the horns and start to focus on me, not focusing on the things that I couldn't control. I can't focus on the way that my parents had raised me. I can't focus on the way that my parents were raised and their trauma and all these things. I couldn't focus on the drugs being the problem, No, clearly I had problems. Okay. Now instead of also, focusing on those problems, because that can also make you depressed. It's like, oh shit, I'm an alcoholic. Just gonna lie here depressed. Oh damn, I'm, addicted to pornography. I'm just gonna lie here depressed or anxious and all these kinds of things. Well, instead of doing that, now you need to focus on the solutions to that problem. Okay, you have an issue focusing? Cool. Start meditating. You've got an issue, you're obese, you're overweight, start exercising. It doesn't have to be done overnight, guys. You're never going to lose like 50 kilo if you're like really, really overweight overnight. But you can take a tiny step today and a tiny step tomorrow to make that change by starting to exercise. I had completely broken my brain at one point and couldn't focus for even 5 minutes. I started taking hold of that, started taking control of that. And I said, okay, cool. You're going to meditate for 10 minutes a day. So it's looking at what you can control versus what you can't control. Take your attention off of the world's problems. For example, stop doing all these protests over the world, over these things that you can not control. Protests, from what I've seen in a lot of cases, just haven't done anything for a long period of time. What you're doing is essentially you're just fighting with another group of people. Nothing gets done. Everyone's focused on the fighting. Everyone gets to take their mind off of their problems for however long the protest takes. Okay, but they're not doing things, the step-by-step daily exercises and daily practices that actually lead to the change in their lives. Everyone's moaning maybe about, like Jerry Springer, guys. You're looking at Jerry Springer. Everyone's complaining about somebody else's family and all that. But when you look at your own family, how broken, or how are your relationships with your own parents and your own siblings, and can you do something in your daily life to make those relationships better, instead of fixating on the relationships between Kanye and Kim or the Kardashians, or whatever reality TV show you might be fixated on today. I'm not saying don't watch any of that stuff, guys. Sometimes it can be entertaining, but over focus on that instead of focusing on you and what you can do in your life to change your existence. Like, if life is not going the way that you want it to, it's completely on you. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to hear. But it's completely on you. So I encourage everybody today to just take hold of your life. Take control of your reaction to things. Today, you're driving around. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Take a breath. Don't let that person upset you. That's in your control. You can't control that the person cut you off. You have no control over that. If somebody yells at you today, don't let them get under your skin. Take a breath. Take control of what you can control. You cannot take control of them. Everything needs to come back to us, guys. Take all that attention off the outside world. Take all that attention off of the things that we cannot control, and take the reins of your life today. And take one step forward, because that is in your control. If you need to exercise, go exercise. If you need to meditate, go meditate. If you need to go and speak to somebody, go speak to somebody. Take that one step today, guys. Stop blaming the outside world for your issues, and start focusing on the solutions to your problems. I love you guys. I'm going to be trying to do that today as well. You don't have to be perfect, by the way, at this. Just one step a day, and you'll see how your life changes. Have an amazing day, beautiful people.